I've been gone for a little bit on parental leave, and while I've been monitoring the sort of social media, I just see OpenClaw, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, and so I'd love to just get your quick takes on like how this has impacted how you're working, and just generally if you have any quick thoughts on it.
Well, I use Claude Code or Codex or a coding agent all the time for lots of things. I Yeah, it's a obviously a revelation. It's amazing. It frees it frees me up to think about the structure of things and the fundamental problem I'm solving. I think there are times where I do care about a, an actual algorithm, like how you might think of like how this works step by step. Like some things in search are literally algorithms, and I want to make sure those are right. But I also think there's a lot of cruft out there that's just boilerplate that's easy to get through. The thing that really interests me, and this is part of my agentic search course, is really interested in Claude or coding agent assisted code generation. I sort of hinted at this before about if you have an agent and an agent thinks it's running in a Python REPL, it can generate code to manipulate its context. I think that's going to be in the next 6 months, a year, a really interesting thing to work on. And also just, hey, Claude, generate me a ranking function that is more generates more relevant code is a fun experiment that everyone should run. I think one blind spot people have for those is you really have to work hard for like Claude Code to not see all the training data to have a holdout that it's evaluated against. And I think sometimes I think like that's a blind spot for people who are maybe just purely software engineers, because Claude will work really hard to cheat. And then you'll have all these like, if it's this query, return results in this order. That's basically repeating the training data. So I think there's an emerging art around that stuff, but I do think it's an interesting space, and it's not like, I will say it's not like a silver bullet, because can only work as well as sort of the primitives you give it. But I do think there will be types of coding that in some ways are more like model fitting than they are how we think of building code. And I think that's an interesting thing that I'm really excited about.
Yeah. And on my front, I'm one of those nerds who has a Mac Studio M3 Ultra with 512 gigs of RAM sitting on my desk, and I'm running all the local models, and I'm doing all that, open code. I use Claude as well, for, faster, bigger stuff. But for me, obviously it helps with the code development process. My team and I use it extensively for that. But uh, I'm very interested in like building agentic flows and software with these models, and this notion of sort of, when do I need the big model? When can I go with a smaller model? And I think there's these unbounded problems where you have, you need a large model because it's just kind of figuring everything out. And I think coding, there's a lot more of that. But also when building software, there's a lot of, we call them just like, atomic agents. Like there's a very tight scope of what it needs to do. And as long as you can define it very well, you can get very deterministic output by using a very lightweight model that's actually fast. And so I think a lot of the trick is figuring out what to use for which problem and how to sort of orchestrate those together into a workflow. And I'm a big fan of being very intentional about designing that versus just, here's an agent, let me just give it a bunch of tools and see what it comes up with. I'm a big fan of saying, let's use the agent to design the workflow and to even help design the tools, and then to get them into a repeatable, reliable workflow that we can ship as software to solve customer problems. So yeah, it's a, like, there's never been a more exciting or terrifying time to be in the software space, but it's yeah, there's a lot going on.